Thanks very much. Hang on, I might just hold this. Okay, so yes. So the problem with working with spiders and being a male is what's the first thing that someone says to you when they find that out? Oh, Spider-Man. Yeah, which is right up there with being called Apple Core, which is the other joke I've never heard about my name. So I thought I'd talk about Spider-Man and what's wrong with him when you compare him to a real spider. We've got Bryce McQuillan's name in the corner there. Every photo you see in here that looks fantastic is one of Bryce's photos. So we've been friends and collaborators for some time, and he just takes the most amazing photos, and I don't bother taking photos. I think there's 2 of mine in here. All the photos of Bryce's just about, unless you see some other credit in there. Okay, so Spider-Man. Now, originally the idea I had for this talk was I was going to wear a Spider-Man costume. And my wife was still saying, oh, you should have done it. Fiona's got spiders on her dress, why don't you do it? The reasons are, after listening to that talk on microplastics a couple of nerd nights ago, we don't need more microplastics from that shitty shop in Tower Junction where you buy Spider-Man costumes from. And the other reason is I think I'd be too self-conscious to wear a Spider-Man costume. Okay, so we all know who Spider-Man is? Yeah, originated in August 1963 and first appeared in a comic book. I'm not going to call them graphic novels, I'm going to call them comic books. And it's just exploded since then. Of course, spiders have been around a lot longer than Spider-Man. They're about, what did I say? 305 million years is the oldest fossil we've got for a spider. So spiders have been around for a very, very long time. We've been around for maybe 300,000 years, so they've existed for a lot longer than us. Now, the story of Spider-Man starts when Peter Parker is bitten by a radioactive spider. So what I'll sort of do in this talk is I'll talk about aspects of biology with Spider-Man as an example, and then we'll look at real spiders. So the first thing we need to look at is venom. So if you're going to be bitten by a radioactive spider, what's going to happen? So when a spider bites you, it's injecting this cocktail of chemicals into you, and it can inject venom that acts as a necrotic venom. It can be venom that works on your nervous system, and then it also puts in these other various polyamides and other chemicals in there to help boost what the venom's doing, and then it also is starting the digestive process. So we have venoms that interfere with your nervous system. So redback spiders, Sydney funnelweb spiders, they in fact interfere with your nervous system and cause extreme pain and screw up sodium channels and all sorts of things like that. Then you have necrotic venoms with things in them called sphingomyelase, which are in brown recluse spiders, and that starts to break down the bonds between your cells in your body. But what a spider's doing when it envenomates you is it's trying to subdue you, and it's trying to start the digestive process. At no point does it inject any DNA into you. So the whole Spider-Man myth is just nuts, because there's no way it could change you into a spider by injecting what it injects into you. So all spiders inject venom. This is a cutaway of a spider, and you can see off to the left there's its venom gland. It extends into its cephalothorax. And then it pumps that venom gland and pushes the venom through its fang tip into its victim. All spiders do this except a group called Euloborids and one group of anapids. These are little tiny spiders, and instead of envenomating their prey, what they do is they wrap their prey in silk over and over and over again. The silk constricts, and the poor little Drosophila or little fruit fly or whatever, it starts to tighten, and all its insides start popping through its exoskeleton, and then it vomits digestive enzymes on it and kills it that way. Only 2 species in New Zealand are of medical significance. So we have Katipo, the only spider with a Maori name in New Zealand. We have 2,000 species of spider in New Zealand. 97% of them are found nowhere else in the world, but only one of them has a Maori name, and that's because it has a medically significant bite. It means night biter. And we also have its very close relative, the redback, living in central Otago and New Plymouth as well. They are medically significant spiders. If you're bitten by them, as Robert Jackson, shout out to Robert Jackson, he got me interested in spiders way back when I did my undergrad. He used to always say, you won't die, you'll just feel like you're going to. So, but you can die, but they're anti-venins, it's okay. We also have two other spiders in New Zealand. We have the brown vagrant spider and we have the whitetail spider. Brown vagrant spider is an endemic species found only in New Zealand. Whitetails are introduced from Australia. They don't have medically significant bites, they just have painful bites. So that's venom. Okay, so the other thing about Spider-Man is you'll notice he's got that blue and red coloration to him. About 99% of the 2,000 species of spider in New Zealand and probably 99% of the estimated 200,000 species of spiders in the world are brown. So, but it's okay because there are blue and white spiders. So there is this big Mygalomorph spider, which is kind of related to tarantulas and that sort. That's a male there, and it's got a bright red cephalothorax and a blue abdomen. That particular spider is saying, fuck off. So that's why it's brightly coloured like that. Then we also have peacock spiders, jumping spiders, and you can see this is Jürgen Otto's finger. So that's his fingernail there. They're tiny little jumping spiders, and the males are blue. Some males are blue and red as well. So, okay, we'll let that one go. Spider-Man can be blue and red because there are blue and red spiders. So the other thing about spiders, and I was thinking about this as my wife was saying, you've got mayonnaise on your face again, because I was eating a burger and I'd made a big mess, is that they feed in a very different way to us. So Spider-Man wouldn't be eating a pizza because all spiders are predators and all spiders eat meat, and they eat living meat. You can sometimes get them to eat dead things, but by and large they're interested in feeding on living things. And the reason is that spiders don't do what we do. We don't shove things in our gob and chew it and swallow it. They do all their digestion, well, a large part of the digestion on the outside. So they take their prey and, like with this Dolomedes here, the pointer works, they crush the insect up with small teeth on their chelicerae and they vomit digestive enzymes on them and make it into soup. And then they drink that soup up. And then if you look at a tarantula's mouth, they're all hairs around its mouth parts. There's its fangs there, and those are its mouth parts there. So it's like having a big bristly moustache like Justin at the bar's got. So that's to stop all the little bits getting into their sucking stomach, which is this powerful thing here that goes into their body. So they have this sucking stomach to suck all the soup that they produce. So that's how spiders feed. Some spiders will use the outside of an insect to help them eat. So this particular spider has injected venom into its wetter prey. It's then moved its mouth parts, the mouth hole, up to that hole and is vomiting digestive enzymes into the insect and then sucking them in and out and in like a kid does with a juice carton if you let them. And then eventually the whole insides are turned to mush and it sucks it all out and you're left with this exoskeleton of the insect behind. So that's how spiders feed. Right, the other overarching image of Spider-Man is the face with the eyes, yeah? And the whole thing about spidey senses, have you heard that before? Yeah? Just by the way, if you look at those eyes there, I've seen an illustration where someone says they look like a pair of breasts in a bikini, and once you see that, you can't unsee it. So, as Fiona was telling us, there are some spiders that can see very well, but most spiders see about as well as you and I could see if we had a pillowcase over our head. So that's things like this brown vagrant spider, little tiny eyes, and basically all those eyes do is detect light and dark and a bit of movement. And I'll tell you how they do their hunting later on. But we do have spiders that can see. We have wolf spiders, like this one here, and that's been caught at night time, and its eyes are reflecting the light back like a cat's do. It has a tapetum, which cats do as well, and that concentrates the light in their eyes so that it can process that image better. And then we have jumping spiders, and as Fiona's kindly explained, they're the ones with the cute eyes that can see really well. And so she's told you a bit about eyes, so I don't need to go into it so much, but the way that their eyes work on the inside of the head is really kind of interesting because our eyes kind of move around and as we look around the room, we move our eyes around. These guys have a fixed lens at the front, and then they have a tube in the back, and the tube moves around, and then the tube focuses that on the bits of the internal parts of the spider that are then processing those images. What's really cool about this is there was a woman in Florida, and she was studying jumping spider behaviour, and what jumping spiders tend to do at night is that they sleep. They can't close their eyes because their eyes are open all the time, but they hang from a thread and they go to sleep. They go into a dormant phase. And COVID happened, and she needed to take all her spiders home because she was working on behaviour to keep them alive, and she noticed what they were doing at night. And she'd never seen that before because she was sleeping at night and working in the lab in the day. And she noticed these spiders were sitting on the end of their little thread that they produce and twitching at night. And she thought, well, that's like my cat or my dog does. I wonder if they're dreaming. And so then what she did is she shone a light through them while they were sleeping so you could see their eyes, and their eyes are moving. So that they've got activity in their eyes while they're sleeping at night, just like cats and dogs do and like we do as well. It's kind of cool. Okay, so most spidey senses come down to hairs. Spiders have wonderful hairy legs, and all those hairs are mechanoreceptors. They have trichobothria, these tiny little hairs just there that can detect air movement. They can detect chemicals. They do their smelling through their legs as well. They have things called slits insula on their cuticles that can measure tension on the legs, so that gives them feedback as to what's happening with their movement. And they also have tarsal organs to detect humidity. So they do all their sensing on their legs. So they're like you and I with a pillowcase over our head, and they're relying on vibration to do their hunting. So virtually all spiders, and even salticids can do it as well. You'll have a visual spider like a salticid. If you put it in the dark, it can still hunt very, very well because it's using vibrations too. So when we talk about spidey senses, we're talking about vibrations. Now, the other thing that kind of bugs me a lot about Spider-Man is the whole movement thing. So a spider's leg has muscles to contract it. If it wants to expand its leg, it uses hydrostatic pressure. So it's pushing the hemolymph in its body in order to extend its legs. That's why when a spider dies, its legs scrunch up, because there's nothing to push those legs out anymore. And there's a school of thought that says that sort of movement that you see in spiders that looks a little bit otherworldly and a bit creepy is because they're using that hydrostatic pressure to extend their legs and the muscles to contract them. And we can see this when a spider molts. You can see this inside of its legs are hollow. So they're hollow legs with a muscle in, and they contract. And then the other obvious thing too is Spider-Man has only 4 limbs and spiders have 8. Okay, let's get on to the good stuff. Silk. Right, we've all seen this image here. In the original Spider-Man comic and in the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man in the movies and the Tom Holland one, he charges up little web squirters on his wrists with silk from elsewhere on his body or stuff that he's made. So that's how the original Spider-Man works. If Spider-Man was real, he would have these long nipple-like structures located just above his anus. By the way, spiders do their poos and wees at the same time out of an anal tubercle, and it's this sort of white stuff, so they don't have 2 holes. And so he would have these long droopy nipple things coming out just above his anus, and that's where he produces the silk. The silk, when we look at them closely, there's the spinnerets there, and even closer, they've got these little things like toothpaste tubes on them, and that squirts out the silk. The silk's a liquid inside and comes out as it's a protein, and it comes out as this elastic but strong substance. And if we look inside a spider, there are up to 8 types of silk that spiders can produce. So the more ancestral or primitive spiders can produce this dragline silk that they use for wrapping prey and attaching to the substrate that they're walking on, so if they fall, they can always haul themselves up on their spinnerets, and then the more derived spiders start building webs, and different parts of the web are made from different types of silk. So this silk is amazing stuff. This paper, by the way, is well worth reading. It's from 1992, but the thing that Fritz Vollrath wrote back then is still pretty true. He was an Oxford professor. He's retired now. He never needed to be an Oxford professor because his wife invented Jenga. So he was a kept man. But the neat thing about silk is that its strength and its versatility. It allows spiders to eat things that are up to 7 times their size because it can capture them with silk. However, only about 30% of spider species produce webs, but all spiders produce silk. That's what makes a spider, it produces silk. If I took a strand of, this is a redback spider web there, if I took a strand of redback spider web that was 1 millimetre thick, it would support my 86 kilos of body weight. You could make a bulletproof vest out of a spider web. It would stop the bullet, but the problem is the bullet would stop about there because it's more elastic than rubber bands. So it's this amazing material that's stronger than tensile steel and more elastic than a rubber band. And that's why this little, what's that called? A golden orb-web spider, I'm trying to not use all the scientific names, can catch something about the size of a sparrow, no problem. That's going to feed on that and be happy for a very long time. The other cool thing that they do, and we see all webs like this, is spiders will introduce droplets of water along the web, and the surface tension in the web will then ball up the silk inside those droplets. And so when a big insect like a bumblebee hits the web, they wind out like a windlass and help absorb the energy of the prey as well. So it's not only elastic, it's also doing cool things like that. So that's silk. Right, the last thing we need to talk about is sex. And when anyone studies spiders or does biology in general, it all comes back to sex. Okay, so have we seen this image before from the movie? What's his girlfriend called again? Mary Jane. Yep. So he's hanging upside down and he's giving her a good old pash while he's doing that. Nah, not so much. Okay, the first thing to understand about spiders is that females have that's a redback hanging upside down. That's her genital opening there. So a female has a genital opening on the underside of her abdomen. That's pretty much what you'd expect. That's pretty normal. What makes a spider is that Spider-Man wouldn't have a penis. Spiders have a genital opening in the same place if you're a male, but what they do is that they ejaculate onto a thing that they make like a sperm web, and then they suck it up in their pedipalps. So they have 8 pairs of legs, and as females do, they have these pedipalps at the front there. In males, they're modified, and if you look at them under a microscope, they look like that. So they are effectively like turkey basters. So it's like Spider-Man is about to go out for the night, he makes his silk hanky, he ejaculates onto it, he sucks it up in his turkey basters, goes out and parties. So that's how spiders have sex. So this is spider sex here. So this is a male here, this is a male tree trapdoor spider, there's the male there, his pedipalps there, there's the female there, he's knocked on her little burrow lid, she's opened the burrow, and he's giving her the ultimate reach around. That's spider sex. But if you're a spider, it's also a bit tricky because females tend to be bigger than males. So in this wolf spider, there's the female there, and there's the male there. Another reach around is happening. She's a bit bigger than him. The thing about spiders that Portia makes you appreciate as well is that they're all predators. So just imagine if you're going for a night out trying to meet the love of your life, you've got your turkey basters full, you're ready to go, and the woman that you're trying to get with is a stone cold killer. All she wants to do is kill and eat something about your size. So if you're a spider and a male, you're going to have to convince her that she's not a male. Spiders have lots of ways of doing this. With jumping spiders, they do all sorts of displays, like peacock spiders. They basically say, hey, I'm not your next meal. Please don't kill me. Let me have sex with you instead. In these crab spiders, this male ties the female down with silk and then mates with her. And these Argyrodes here, there's the male there. He's tiny. There's the female there. It's the male that's tiny. It's not the female that's big. I got in trouble with this once because I said it was like my wife was the size of a rhinoceros, and I was. It's not. It's the other way around. It's like I'm the size of a small kitten, and my wife is normal size. And so that makes it even scarier. If you imagine if you're a male and you're tiny, and you're going to have to mate with this stone cold killer that's miles bigger than you. With these guys here, they just basically do it while the female's distracted. Then you have the Spissora here. These are nursery web spiders from Europe. What the male has there is he's gone and caught an insect and he wraps it up in silk and he gives it to the female, and while she's eating, he mates with her. Sometimes he just gives her bits of crap wrapped up in silk and still mates with her anyway. Then we have the redback. There's the redback female there, and there's the male there. These guys are next level. Again, it's a stone cold killer. A male goes to the web, he starts drumming on the web, and the female goes, okay, I'll chill out. And she just goes completely quiet. She stops moving. And then the male, some spider porn, climbs on her. So you can see the male is there. Those dark things there are his pedipalps. There's one there. He's gone and put that in her epigyne, and he's pumping sperm into her. And then this is what he does. Come on. And she's just chilling out. He puts his abdomen right into her mouth parts. And then she tries to feed on him. He's got special muscles in his abdomen to constrict his abdomen to stop that happening. That works the first time, but he's a male. He has 2 pedipalps and she has 2 genital openings. If you're a male, come on, you'd have to have another go. And that's what he does, and the next time she kills and eats him. So he makes the ultimate sacrifice in order to bring up his kids. Okay, so take-home message. Tobey Maguire Spider-Man is disgusting. That's not silk that he's pumping out of his wrists. And that'll help you remember what makes a spider, I hope. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Cor. I told you it'd be entertaining, wasn't it? Do we have any questions?
Is there a reason why, for instance, the golden orb spider has such an incredibly strong web that if you push against it, you can really feel it, whereas similar-sized spiders have webs that you just push through?
It kind of depends on their prey. So if you're in the tropics and you're wanting to catch big insects, you need a big, strong web. If you're just, a cellar spider and you just need a little flimsy web, because you're going to run out there and start throwing silk over your prey, your web doesn't need to hang around for so long. So it's horses for courses. And spiders will also eat the silk at the end of the night sometimes, because birds have a pesky habit of smashing through their webs in the daytime. And the silk is just protein, so they can just reprocess it and bring it out again as well.
Thanks. I think you said that all spiders create silk, but only about 1/3 of them have webs. So
yeah. What
do the other ones do with the silk?
So they're using their silk as drag lines to wrap their prey, to make egg sacs, to tie females down if they want to have sex with them, all that sort of thing. So there's a whole slew of things that they can do with their silk as well.
You've given us lots of wonderful spider facts and BDSM facts tonight. What is your most favorite, spider fact?
I don't know. Probably the whole redback sex thing. I think that's pretty neat. How does that happen? What's really weird is it doesn't happen in katipo, and katipo and redbacks are about 200 to 100,000 years apart, very closely related, but that behaviour is lost in its sister species. There is another ancestral Lactrodectus, the brown widow, that does it as well, the suicide mating, but then it doesn't happen in all the other Lactrodectus, all the other widow spiders too, so yeah. Oh, I'll give you another fact that's a bit weird too. The whole name widow spiders, it's a misnomer. So the original person that was looking at them got a female, put it in a container, introduced a male, and noticed that the female, after she mated with the male, would run after the male and capture and kill him. And that's where the name widow spiders happened. If that person had actually done it on a web, not inside a box, they would have noticed that the male just ran off the web. So most widow spiders, the male gets to do it again. So there's a useless fact.
You mentioned a number of different types of silk. Mm-hmm. So are there differences between the older and the newer spiders in that? And do the spiders use different types of silk in the same web?
Yeah. So the older types of silk are more just for fairly primitive webs and wrapping prey and all that sort of thing, whereas the newfangled types of silk are for different parts of the web. So if you've got that classic orb web, the radial threads are one type of silk, and then the circular parts that join it are another kind of silk, and then there's a sticky silk, which is a different type of silk as well. Sorry, I don't know who I'm looking at, so I'm just looking at in general.
How would you remake Spider-Man to make him more scientifically accurate?
Yeah, so in my little fantasy world, if I was doing this talk with an unlimited budget, I would start with a Spider-Man costume, and then I would kind of pull parts off and add parts, and I'd have 8 legs. But really, if the real Spider-Man would be brown, he would have these nipple-like projections just above his anus. He would have hands full of sperm. But the thing you really can't get past is they've got an external skeleton, whereas we've got an internal skeleton. That doesn't really work. But I think, for me, the best approximation would be David Cronenberg's The Fly. You know, when he tries the transporting thing and mixes up the DNA, I just think that's a really cool idea. That would be what my Spider-Man would look like, would be like The Fly, but with 8 legs.
Great, and last question over here.
Yeah, you'd said that the redbacks are in Otago and New Plymouth, but is there a bit of interbreeding between the redbacks and katipo? What does that mean for the trajectory?
So if you want to go back to the Nerd Night archive, I talk about that in the previous talk, but that's one of the reasons that redbacks are a problem, that they can interbreed with katipo. They can only interbreed one way and not the other because it's due to the size difference in the males. So it's a real threat to our endemic species that has cultural significance because it has a Maori name. And the other problem we don't want about redbacks is they're eating endangered insects in central Otago as well. And then there's the small problem that they bite people and they can spread all around New Zealand, basically anywhere you can grow grapes. So there's a little précis of the other talk I gave. But yeah, they're not welcome.
Thank you. Another round of applause for Core.